Welcome to Cardano for Everyone, a podcast series from Pasta Steak Pool. Each episode explores something new about Cardano in a way that's simple and accessible for everyone. In the mood for some Cardano magic? Let's get started.
Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive on Cardano governance. Specifically, we're taking a look at the Voltaire phase, where the Cardano community actually gets a say in shaping the platform's future. So we're going to try to break it down into some easy to understand concepts today. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to look at things like the Cardano Constitution, voting power, and even those things called DRIPs.
It's going to be a good one. Voltaire is super interesting because it kind of marks this culmination of Cardano's journey toward becoming fully decentralized.
Okay, so before we get into the really specific nuts and bolts of Voltaire, can you give us a little recap of how we even got to this point? What came before?
So Cardano's development has actually been this multi-phase process. It all started with Byron, which kind of laid the foundation. Then came Shelley, and that was huge because it introduced staking pools. It allowed people to delegate their ADA and really started to decentralize the network.
Shelley was a really big deal.
Then we had Gauguin. And that brought in smart contracts. So now developers could actually build decentralized applications on Cardano. And then Basho came along and optimized everything for efficiency. And now we have Voltaire, which is basically about handing the keys over to the community.
Okay, so Voltaire is all about putting the community in the driver's seat.
Exactly. It's about empowering the Cardano community, giving them a direct say in how the platform changes and evolves.
I like that.
And this is done through several key elements. We're going to start with the Cardano Constitution.
Okay, a constitution. That sounds serious.
It's basically a set of guiding principles for Cardano, outlining the fundamental rules and values that should govern the platform. It's still being defined, and that's where the community comes in. They get to shape it.
Oh, so it's not just some document written in stone.
And then there's voting power, which is tied directly to how much ADA you hold. The more ADA you have, the bigger your say is.
So it's like put your ADA where your mouth is.
It lets you influence decisions about upgrades and the overall direction of Cardano.
Okay, so if I have ADA, I can vote.
That's where CIP 1694 comes in. This is a proposal that lays out the framework for what we call on-chain governance. It defines the rules for submitting proposals, discussing them, and of course voting on them.
So everyone gets to weigh in on every decision.
You can if you want, but it could get a little overwhelming to vote on every single thing. That's where DRIPs come in. Delegated representatives, these are community elected representatives who can vote on behalf of ADA holders who choose to delegate their voting rights to them.
Oh, okay. So you're basically saying I can choose someone I trust to represent my interests if I don't have time to research every single proposal. That makes a lot of sense.
It makes participation a lot more accessible.
Okay, so we have the Constitution, we have voting power, and we have these DREPs. What about making sure that everything is in line with the Constitution? Is there a group or something that handles that?
Yeah, that would be the Constitutional Committee. Their job is to make sure any proposed changes align with what's laid out in the Constitution. They're kind of like the guardians of Cardano's core values.
So they are making sure no one is messing with the Constitution.
You got it.
Pretty important role. Right, so if we're talking about true decentralization, every step needs to be as open and fair as possible. So we've got the Constitution, voting power, DREPs, and this committee making sure everything is on the up and up. What about funding? Where does the money come from to actually develop and support all these cool projects?
That's where the Catalyst treasury system comes in. And it's a pretty unique approach.
Catalyst has always sounded really interesting to me.
So basically, a portion of the transaction fees from the Cardano network go into this treasury. Then the community gets to propose and vote on projects they want to see funded using that money. It creates this really cool loop of self-sustainability where the network grows and evolves based on what the community itself prioritizes.
So it's like a big community fund.
Yeah.
And everyone gets to decide what's important for the future of Cardano. That's amazing.
And we're already seeing some awesome projects being funded and developed through Catalyst.
That's really cool. Really shows how Catalyst can empower individuals to build the tools and infrastructure they need without waiting for permission from anyone.
It really does. And it's not just about funding. It's also about decision-making power. Catalyst gives the community a direct voice in shaping the future of Cardano.
So it's not just developers who can benefit.
Nope. Anyone with ADA can participate in proposing, refining, and voting on projects. This kind of bottom-up approach to innovation is pretty rare.
Especially in finance.
For sure.
It sounds like Catalyst is a game changer. Okay, so we've been talking about governance. You mentioned ACP 1694 earlier. Can you walk me through how that actually works in practice?
Let's say you have an amazing idea for how to improve Cardano.
Okay.
The first step is to take that idea and formalize it into a proposal. And you do that by following the guidelines laid out in CIP 1694.
So there's like a format and a process I have to follow.
Yes. It helps make sure that proposals are clear, well-defined, and that they're addressing a real need in the ecosystem. Once the proposal is submitted, it goes through a period of community discussion and debate. So it's a collaborative process.
CIP 1694 sets the rules for how votes are tallied and what thresholds need to be met for a proposal to be adopted.
What happens if there's a proposal that wants to change something really fundamental about Cardano, like something that goes against the principles in the Constitution? That's where the Constitutional Committee steps in. They review proposals to make sure they don't conflict with the core values and rules in the Constitution.
So they're kind of like the Supreme Court of Cardano. They make sure everyone is playing by the rules.
Yep. They have the power to flag or even block proposals that they think are incompatible with the Constitution.
So checks and balances are important even in a decentralized system. And just to be clear, the Cardano Constitution itself can also be changed through community governance.
Right. It's a living document, not a static set of rules.
So the Constitution can evolve. That's pretty cool. It speaks to how adaptable and responsive Cardano's governance model is. Okay, but let's go back to the DREPs for a second. We talked about how they can vote on behalf of ADA holders. But how do we prevent them from abusing that power? So how do we know they're not just voting for things that benefit them?
Well, there are several mechanisms being explored to hold DREPs accountable. One idea is requiring them to publicly disclose their voting records.
Oh, so everyone can see how they voted.
Another idea is to have regular forums or Q&A sessions, where community members can directly question their DREPs about their decisions. That way, they're held accountable for their actions.
So open communication and feedback are key.
There's even discussion about implementing systems for recalling DREPs who aren't fulfilling their responsibilities or who are acting against the interests of the community.
Oh, wow. So if a DREP isn't doing their job, they can be removed. It sounds like choosing the right DREP is a pretty big deal then.
It is. You want to choose someone you trust to make decisions that benefit everyone, not just themselves or a small group. Remember, you're not just delegating your voting power. You're entrusting someone to represent your vision for what Cardano can become.
I want to get your overall perspective on Voltaire. What do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities as this phase of Cardano's development continues?
I think one of the biggest challenges, and this is true for any decentralized system, is finding the right balance between individual freedom and collective decision-making. How do we ensure that everyone has a voice while still making progress as a community? But I think Cardano, with its emphasis on research, collaboration, and thoughtful design, is well equipped to navigate those challenges.
So finding solutions that work for both individuals and the community.
What excites me most is the potential for Voltaire to empower individuals and communities in ways we haven't seen before. Imagine a world where anyone, regardless of where they live or their background, can have a say in shaping the technologies that affect their lives.
That's powerful. It's really cool.
It really shows how Catalyst can empower individuals to build the tools they need without waiting for permission. And it's not just about the funding, it's about the decision-making power. Catalyst gives the community a voice in shaping the future. ADA holders have a direct say in how the platform evolves. It's all about ensuring a fair and balanced system.
Okay, so we've got the Constitution, the committee, but how does the community actually get to make decisions?
Every ADA holder has voting rights, and the weight of your vote is proportional to the amount of ADA you hold.
So the more skin in the game, the bigger the voice?
It's a way to give more influence to those who are most invested in Cardano's success. ADA holders get to vote on which projects should receive funding. And the funding comes from a dedicated treasury, which is filled by transaction fees collected on the network.
Okay, this is getting pretty complex. We've got the Constitution, the committee, voting power, catalyst, a treasury, anything else.
One more crucial piece, the guardrails script.
Ooh, sounds intense. What's that about?
It's essentially a safety mechanism built into the protocol. It prevents any single entity, even someone with a lot of voting power, from making changes that could harm the network.
So it's like a safeguard against someone going rogue.
It ensures that all governance actions are aligned with Cardano's core principles of decentralization, security, and sustainability.
Okay, so it's like having a safety net. Constitution, committee, voting, catalyst, treasury, guardrails. My head's spinning.
It is a lot to take in.
So this whole voting process, it's all recorded on the blockchain, right?
Absolutely.
What if someone has an idea for a new app? Or maybe a community project?
That's where Catalyst shines. It's the platform where community members can propose projects, and then the community votes on which ones get funded.
So it's like a way for the community to directly support initiatives they believe in.
It's like a launchpad for innovation, powered by the Cardano treasury.
Pretty cool. I was reading about a project that got funded through Catalyst. It was using Cardano to bring solar-powered internet access to remote communities in Africa.
That's amazing.
It's incredible to see how Catalyst is helping to solve real-world problems. Cardano's really turning things around. On some projects that have been funded through this Project Catalyst, there's a lot of variety. Things like MinSwap, Addaswap, Cardano Warriors, even some projects focusing on real-world issues, like Empower, which is working on making housing more affordable, and then Cardano for Climate.
It is interesting, like the range of all these projects is really impressive. I think it says a lot about what a community can do. And what's even more interesting is that the funding comes straight from the Cardano treasury. So there's this pool of funds specifically set aside for development.
So let's talk about some of these projects that have received funding.
Yeah.
We've got MinSwap and Addaswap, and they're both aiming to create what are called decentralized exchanges. Maybe for those who are new to this, could you explain what the big deal is with DXs?
So DXs like MinSwap and Addaswap, they're all about giving the users complete control over their assets. So they basically cut out the middleman, which are usually these big centralized exchanges, and they allow people to trade directly with each other, peer-to-peer, which is a core idea in DeFi.
So cutting out the middleman.
Since it's all on the blockchain, every transaction is public.
But we also have projects exploring gaming and NFTs. Cardano Warriors, an NFT maker.
Is a collectible card game built on Cardano. And the cool part is, each card is actually a unique NFT, so you really own a part of the game.
And NFT maker, that sounds like it's about creating NFTs on Cardano.
It gives anyone the power to make and mint their own NFTs on Cardano. And you don't even need to be super technical. It's a great tool for artists, musicians, really anyone who wants to use NFTs to make money from their work.
It's pretty amazing, it seems like. We touched on DeFi and NFTs, but I'm curious to learn more about those projects with a social impact. Like Empower. They're tackling affordable housing, which is a huge problem everywhere, really.
Empower is a great example of how you can use blockchain for good. They're basically using Cardano to build a system for property ownership that's more transparent and easier for people to access, especially in developing countries where those traditional land registries can be pretty unreliable or just difficult to get to.
So it sounds like blockchain is being used to provide a record of ownership that's secure and can be verified, which could be huge for people who might not have had formal documentation before.
And once you have that secure record, it can open up a lot of doors. And it can help people build equity through homeownership. So it's a really powerful way to use this technology.
It makes you think about how many other problems in the world could benefit from this. But let's not forget how important education and community building are, especially in something as complex as blockchain.
And that's where projects like Gimbal Labs and Adao come in. They're playing a crucial role in nurturing the Cardano ecosystem by supporting developers and educating users.
So Gimbal Labs is more focused on developers.
Yeah, they offer workshops, hackathons, and other resources to help developers build on Cardano. You can think of them as a launchpad, helping developers take their ideas and turn them into reality.
Let's revisit some of the projects and talk about the impact they're having. So MinSwap, for instance, that decentralized exchange, that's making crypto trading easier.
Yeah, MinSwap's been really successful. I think part of it is their design is really user-friendly. They've created an interface that's easy to use, even if you're completely new to DeFi. You don't need to be some blockchain whiz to swap tokens on MinSwap.
So they figured out that user experience piece, which can be a real challenge in DeFi. What about AdaSwap? How are they standing out?
Well, they've got this thing called concentrated liquidity pools. They can target specific price ranges
Yeah.
with their capital. So it's a more efficient way to
See.
provide liquidity, and that could mean higher returns.
That's interesting.
It's all about breaking down those barriers and making blockchain more inclusive. And that's really what makes Project Catalyst so special.
It shows you that technology is only as good as the people using it. And with Cardano, it seems like they've created a system where it's the community that's driving the innovation.
In how to do decentralized governance.
Feeling really optimistic after exploring all these projects. They're just a glimpse of all the incredible work happening in the Cardano community.
Decentralization takes time and effort, and it's inspiring to see the community stepping up. With Catalyst, we're seeing projects that might never have gotten funding in a traditional system.
Community-driven innovation, pretty powerful stuff.
It is. And finally, it creates this deeper sense of ownership within the community.
Because people are directly involved in shaping the future of the platform.
Precisely.
Okay, so that's for Cardano, but what about the bigger blockchain world? Could Voltaire inspire other projects to adopt similar models?
If Voltaire proves to be successful, it could definitely set a precedent for other blockchains.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new paradigm for governance. So, to our listeners out there, what role do you see yourselves playing in shaping Cardano's future? Will you run a stake pool, delegate your ADA, become a DREP, or maybe pitch your own awesome idea on Catalyst, becoming an active participant in building this decentralized future? We're not just talking about some far-off future. It's happening block by block, vote by vote, and who knows what amazing things we'll create together. We've explored Cardano's journey to decentralization, the key elements of Voltaire, the challenges and opportunities.
A lot of exciting stuff.
So thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into Cardano's Voltaire phase. And remember, this is just the beginning. The future is being written right now, and you have the power to be a part of it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for being part of Cardano for Everyone. We hope you gained something valuable from today's episode. If you'd like to support our mission of making Cardano knowledge accessible for all, consider selecting Pasta from the pool list when you delegate. Every bit of support helps us bring more content to listeners like you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next episode.